Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I want to talk to you about ISO 26000. I work in the development space, and like every other development professional, it's always a pleasure to do something that we know will outlive us or that goes beyond our own individual preferences for what we want to do with our lives, because it's always about something transformative, something that's going to impact the lives of people. And the ISO 26000 is a guide that helps both professionals and organizations tailor their activities in the development space in a socially responsible manner. That's what this video is going to be about. So I'm going to start a series with this particular video. So subsequently, I'm going to dive into other parts of the ISO 26000 standard. But in this video, I want to start with you on an introduction to the ISO 26000 standard, more of an overview, but I'm going to delve into the concept a little bit. We'll talk a bit about the history, and in the next video, we're going to talk about principles, and then we'll go on till we exhaust everything in this playlist course. What I hope that this will help you do is to achieve two things. One, if you're just a professional who's looking to improve your knowledge about the development sector and you're looking particularly about what social responsibility is and how organizations, CSR, for example, and professionals can promote social responsible behavioral practices and policies, then this video is going to help you accomplish that. Well, not this video particularly, but the entire playlist. But this video is a very good start. The other thing that I hope that this video and subsequent videos will help you do is if you're preparing for the PECB ISO 26000 lead certifications or just the associate certifications or fundamentals, this video is again not this video particularly, but this course playlist is going to help you achieve the same. So without further ado, let's go into the material for this video. So now, let's deal with the very basic things, the concept. So, social responsibility and CSR. So, first off, social responsibility is a larger terminology. So, it then comprises everything that has to do with the responsibility of individuals and organizations to the rest of society. Whereas CSR is more particular, it's more specific. It talks about businesses and corporate organizations, whereas social responsibility includes individuals and all other kinds of organizations. CSR is really particular to businesses. So I'm going to share this material so that if you're watching this video, you could also have a companion resource for you, especially if you're preparing for the examinations or you'd like to see this resource. So I'm going to share the link in the video description so you can take a look at it. So this is about CSR, right? Well, this part of it is about CSR. So CSR is the responsibility of businesses to society. Particularly, it's a voluntary kind of responsibility. So organizations usually have such things as foundations and non-profits, and they do that in a bid to give back to society. It's not a term I like to use, the word give back, as if you took something particularly from society that you weren't supposed to take. Businesses help society grow. So it's not, I wouldn't want to use that term give back anymore, but um, I'm sure you understand the sense in which a business which is actively profiting from its activities in society wants to promote the health and well-being of members of the society and help the society grow beyond its uh, fiduciary responsibilities. So CSR is more about that voluntary commitment of a business to act responsibly beyond its legal obligations and financial interests. Today, we now talk about ESG being environmental social governance as a framework to help organizations measure the sort of impact that they have on society. And ESG has also become controversial because many organizations now do not pay much attention to the impact of their measurements and consents to shareholders who helped them start business in the first place. So that's why ESG is particularly facing a controversy because it's about, while you want to do good to society, are you also doing good by returning profits or engaging in acts that are profitable to your stakeholders? It's a good question and it's a good debate that people have in this space, and I think that debate is not going to go away anytime soon. But the point is really that organizations have especially in CSR organizations, which is businesses have the responsibility to contribute to society in other ways that they may not think about when they're thinking about their financial outcomes and outputs. So that is what you have in CSR. But in social responsibility, it's really about everybody. We're talking about churches, mosques, and all other kinds of organizations, including the government itself, which often acts as a regulator of things in society. So individuals and organizations should act in ways that benefit society and the environment, considering recommendations on a wide range of issues. That's what social responsibility is about. And you have that in the international standards ISO 26000, which was standardized or introduced in 2010. It was reviewed, I think, in 2021, right? I have that somewhere here too. And when it was reviewed in 2021, they found that there wasn't there wasn't a significant need to introduce an update to the standard. That's why it still goes back to 2010. But all of the things in the standards are still um, relevant to today. I got my own certification through the PCB in 2023, so it's entirely relevant. But before we go into the rest of this video and talk about the material more deeply, let's just take a step back to understand how we came to CSR, social responsibility, as a contemporary guide. Let's just go back a little bit in history, right? And that's where we want to look at this part of the material. So, social responsibility emerged or goes way back to acts of charity and religious devotion. You have people who do things for the good of doing them because they want to help other people in society. They want to help the poor, or they want to help the um, people who are out of reach, or people who do not have the social means to live noble lives. So, the nobility often helped the poor in society. And so that's way back as it goes. And for Christians, for example, you often have i- instances where Jesus Christ tells a story and he says this is about how you should engage with other people in society. So everything that we have, or going back to ancient days, often cast attention to the needs of other people. And so, whatever you do as an individual or as a body should see to those interests. So, when it got to the 19th century and the Industrial Revolution, we have a lot of businesses who are using innovations in society to create new expansions in the economy. So, as these businesses grow, they employ a lot more people, and as they employ a lot more people, they're making profits for the owners of the business. But people are also getting employed, and people can take or fulfill their obligations to their families, right? So for men who've had jobs, and when men went to war, for example, women took over those jobs till men virtually returned from the war and began competing for those jobs with the women who had spent their time in those jobs. The point is simply that because the companies existed, right, we had impact on the family institution. Whether that is negative impact or a positive impact is a different topic. But the point is simply that during that time, businesses took or had an impact in the rest of society. And so it began to question the very nature of businesses. So should we have a early start time for the business and a late start time? How do we work around the shifts? What sort of machinery do people use, and what are the preventive measures that you put in place to ensure minimal damage or accidents within the business? So all of those issues came about as the Industrial Revolution took greater shape in society. By the time we get to Andrew Carnegie and his corporation, he was more concerned about how wealth being in the hands of the rich is a matter of trust. And so the rich hold wealth for the rest of society in trust to the society so that they can manage that wealth and help society meet its needs and obligations. But beyond that, we also have responses to social issues. That's all of this contributed to the emergence of social responsibility as a school of thought and as a paradigm and understanding for the economy and for professionals in the world of work. So, what does social responsibility look like today? Social responsibility today is not merely a matter of understanding or perspective to work. It is as it has been institutionalized as a matter of strategy. So today we talk about sustainable development goals and we talk about sustainability, right? All of that develops out of the emerging trends of social responsibility um, topics and paradigms and lessons. So that is a bit about the history of social responsibility. When I started, I talked about social responsibility and CSR, and I made the point that CSR is more specific to businesses, whereas social responsibility is more encompassing. You're talking about organizations and you're talking about individuals. So both of them aim are aimed at maximizing the contributions of organizations towards sustainable development of society. Whereas social responsibility captures all kinds of organizations, CSR does not capture all kinds. It particularly concerns itself with businesses. But at the core, both of them understand that all kinds of organizations, or well, not all kinds, but organizations, businesses, and others should contribute meaningfully towards sustainable development. Towards sustainable development is the main aim of social responsibility according to the ISO 26000 standards. So bear that in mind as an objective. So if you had, say, an interesting conversation and someone was quite curious, why are you doing a course about social responsibility? Well, you're doing a course about social responsibility so that you can understand your responsibility and the responsibility of the organization you're working for towards the sustainable development of society. And by sustainable development, we're simply talking about how society can sustain itself or can linger, can continue to exist because of the way we manage the resources in society and all kinds of resources, natural resources, human resources, and many other kinds. So, what are the basic details about ISO 26000 standards? That's what I want to talk about now. Now, I have a couple of pictures here to help you understand social responsibility. We're talking about individuals. So, for example, before we go to the details, for example, we talk about people not drinking and driving. That is particular to individuals, right? Because an individual has a responsibility to ensure that their own activities do not negatively impact the lives of other people. So that's why we constantly say, please do not drink and drive, because we don't want you to be a nuisance to others because if you do that, a lot of evil things happen when people drink and drive, and it doesn't matter who you are. It's just safe or safer for society that you do not drink and drive. It's even safe for yourself as well, right? We also talk about in terms of organizations and governments in particular in developing countries. Waste management is not a strong experience. It's not a strong health experience. In fact, it's a health concern. I live in Lagos, which is one of the busiest cities in the world. And one of the problems we have here is that we do not have a proper waste management system that helps keep the rest of society safe. So, in fact, there are certain places in Lagos when you get close to those places, you're going to perceive the very strong, unpleasant smells emitted from the landfills. So that's why we have landfills here. So the government has a responsibility to take care of such things. And earlier I mentioned that for CSR, you have such things as HP Foundation and many other organizations who have foundations. What they're simply doing is trying to contribute to society in other ways, aside from their fiduciary responsibility and their financial obligations to their stakeholders and to the rest of customers and other people who fall into that bracket. So now let's just go on a bit to the basic details about the ISO 26000 standard, which is what this entire playlist course is about, right? So let's, in this video, understand the basics. So as I said earlier, it was developed in 2010 and was revised in 2021, and it's to help the general public and the private sector organizations and individuals achieve benefits of operating in a socially responsible manner. So the objective of social responsibility is really to contribute to sustainable development as I established earlier, while the objective of ISO 26,000, the standard itself is to promote a common understanding of social responsibility. Those are two different things. The objective of social responsibility as a school of thought, as a paradigm of engagement, and the objective of the standard, the ISO 26000 standard. So the standard is a documentation or a document, while social responsibility is a school of thought, it's a paradigm. So those two have different aims. While the standard wants to promote the understanding of social responsibility, the objective of social responsibility itself, which is the school of thought, the concept, is to promote sustainable development. Now, when I teach, I like to encourage my students to associate certain concepts and with the, others. So, and then create a distinction of those concepts. So, there is a similar concept to ISO 26000, which is called the SA 8000. So the SA 8000 is powered by different organizations or is managed by different organizations from the International Society, from the International Standards Organizations. So the SA 8000 is called Social Accountability 8000, right? So this is a standard based on internationally recognized standards of decent work, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, ILO conventions, and national laws. So contrary to the ISO 26000 standards, which is based on seven core principles, and I'm going to explain or review those core principles in this video, while subsequently I'm going to delve into the principles and explain them. But in this video, I just want to cite that the ISO 26000 has seven principles, whereas the SA 8000 has nine principles. So these nine principles cover different places or different elements, but they have overlaps in some places. But the primary focus of the SA 8000 is about accountability, while the focus of the social responsibility standards, ISO 26000, is more about fostering sustainable development in society, acting in a socially responsible way. So it's a broader concept than than the SA 8000 in my own opinion. The SA 8000, like I said, is more about accountability in certain key areas, whereas social responsibility is a much bigger concept and it goes beyond accountability as a concept and as a practice. So the SA 8000 is certified by the Social Accountability International (SAI) for social accountability and workplace well-being. And I said it offers nine elements of coverage to help organizations set, assess, and apply ethical and socially responsible working conditions for their employees. So let me use this table to show you, uh, to highlight fundamental distinctions, areas of distinctions between the ISO 26000 and the SA 8000. In terms of focus, which is the first point I'd like to highlight here, the ISO 26000 focuses on social responsibility, provides the ISO 26000 is a guide. It provides guidance for organizations and individuals to help them understand what acting in socially responsible ways would be in various concepts or in various instances and using various examples and, and concepts. So the SA 8000, on the other hand, is about how, as a matter of focus, is about how organizations can adopt, especially businesses, can adopt ethical practices and social accountability in their endeavors. In terms of application, the ISO 26000 has a broader range of social responsibility issues than the SA 8000, which is more about workplace conditions and social accountability for workers. In terms of certification, the ISO 26000 is not certifiable. This is how I mean. Although the PCB has a certification for professionals, the ISO 26000 itself is not a management standard. So it does not certify organizations as being socially responsible. It's only a guide that organizations can use in addition to other local laws to formulate what they would call a policy for social responsibility for their own organization, right? So it is not certifiable for organizations. There are other standards such as the 9000 standard, which is about quality assurance and quality management systems. So all those other ones under the ISO, about a good number of them are actually certifiable. They certify organizations for meeting those requirements. But the ISO 26000 does not certify an organization as being socially responsible. It only gives them a guide and tells them these are areas that you should consider. In fact, it uses the word should and does not use the word must. So that's one of the things you're going to find that's quite interesting about the ISO 26000 standards. But in other management certifications, there is a stronger recommendation or a strong or a compulsion or should I say a necessity that organizations must meet and do certain things. But in this case, they are more about guidance and recommendations. On the other hand, the SA 8000 is a certifiable standard. Auditing. So organizations should self-assess under the ISO 26000 and they can use third-party verifications and all that. But the SA 8000 um, compels organizations to businesses to regularly audit and assess their policies. So coverage, as I said, ISO 26000 covers seven subjects, while SA 8000 covers nine elements. In terms of framework, we have the ISO 26000 being a framework for understanding social responsibility, while the SA 8000 is a framework for understanding ethical business practices. And in terms of the source of those standards, the ISO, which is International Organization for Standardization, is the body in charge or guiding, which introduced the ISO 26000 standards, and it's the body that controls that documentation and the research process. While the Social Accountability International, SAI, is the body in charge of the SA 8000. So, what is the ISO 26000 2010 standard? I stated that earlier, but I just want to recap it here for those who might just be watching this video for the first time and have never heard of social responsibility. But I figure that if you find this video on YouTube as I posted, then there's a good chance that you are interested in the social responsibility and that you have a bit of an idea about it. But I just want to rehash it a little bit here. So ISO 26000 is a guidance document for organizations who are intent on contributing to sustainable development in society. And as I said, it's not a management system standard, so it does not compel that organizations meet certain requirements. That's why it's not certified for organizations, even though, as I said, the PECB gives you a certification and says that you are competent in implementing or auditing the uh, social responsibility policies for an organization. But as an organization, it does not certify you as being socially responsible. So any other or any offer to certify or claims to be certified against ISO 26000 would be a misrepresentation of the standard's intent and purposes. Why? Because the standard is not meant for certification, it's meant as a guidance. So the standard seeks to promote a common understanding of social responsibility. It also complements, it doesn't replace, but it complements other existing tools and initiatives, especially local laws and policies, but also international laws and norms, while being consistent with international norms of behavior. So, what are the benefits to, if I've already said that it's not compulsory, then why bother about it? Well, it's not compulsory, but it has its own benefits that any organization under responsible management should consider. One, it gives you a competitive advantage, even though you cannot lay claim to say, oh, I am certified by or against the ISO 26000. You can surely say that the policies in your organization are taking into consideration the recommendations offered by the document, the ISO 26000. So you can say that you have taken that into consideration, but you cannot say that you have been certified by it. So when you say something like that, it also gives you a competitive advantage because people might then say, okay, well, these guys are taking this into consideration. So we can use that standard to negotiate certain things, especially when we see that they are not meeting up to certain requirements. So it gives you a competitive advantage because other organizations who do not care about the standards or don't even know about the standards cannot even understand what those recommendations are. But you know about it and you do. So for an organization, it gives you a competitive edge. It also helps your reputation. It boosts employee morale because when you have such policies about employee engagement and workplace hazards, and you're trying to control or eradicate incidents or prevent any such workplace hazards accidents. So a policy that is founded or created based on the recommendations of the ISO 26000 is one that's going to take into consideration the well-being of employees. So when your employees know that you truly care and that you have a policy in place about their well-being, that's one that um, could help boost the way they take your work because it reaffirms their commitment, your commitment to them, and their own commitment to you. So there are a ton of benefits in terms of relationships with other companies, government agencies, international organizations, the media, suppliers, and so on and so forth. So in terms of implementation, really, so what does implementation look like for the ISO 26000? That is, what do you do or how do you go about it? So, first off, organizations must recognize that social responsibility exists, that they have a social responsibility within their sphere of influence. So, their sphere of influence includes relationship with suppliers, relationship with all kinds of stakeholders, customers, and so on and so forth. So, within that sphere of influence, that is the areas in the business world or business talk or the organizational talk of an organization or the relationship that an organization has with other elements of society, organizations of society. Well, I know I'm using a lot of words just trying to explain that one point, but sphere of influence simply says an organization exists, and while that organization exists, it has relationships with other key members of the society. So within that relationship, there are certain things or certain people who look up to an organization for leadership or for recommendations. So in that relationship, within that sphere of influence, a musician is supposed to act responsibly and understand that by acting responsibly in its engagement with other stakeholders and with society, it is promoting and ensuring social responsibility and sustainable development. So that's what sphere of influence means. So organizations should also review the principles of social responsibility described in clause 4. We're going to get to that and principles specific to each core subject. So we talked about principles, and there are principles that are specific to each core subject. So there are principles specific generally, and there are principles specific to each core subject. So um, organizations must review those principles described and use those principles to guide its own policies. So we have organizations should seek to integrate these recommendations in its business decisions and activities using the guidance provided in clause 7. We're also going to get to that point. So I'm just picking out a couple of things here for you to understand that there are benefits, but there are also obligations. That's why I place them side by side in this material that I've created. So you have benefits, so you're going to get some things, but you have an obligation that will help you get those benefits or an obligation that you must meet for you to sustain those benefits. So we also have here, let me just take a sip. So we also have here a schematic overview. All right. So this schematic overview is found in the document. So you'll have to secure the ISO 26000 document from the ISO website. I think I'm going to put a link to the website here as well. So you just check the description to get that link. So you have a schematic overview. So this schematic overview is just to help you understand the schemes or the areas that the ISO 26000 covers. So we have scope, which is in, oh, this is actually not big enough. I thought I made it big enough. So let me just take a moment to increase this. All right. I'm sure you can see that. So we're going to increase this. Let me drag this further down. Why not it? Drag this further down. Drag this further down. Okay. Yo, me while I fix that. It's actually my first time using this slide to create a course. Usually I use PowerPoint presentations, but I didn't want to use PowerPoint for this particular video because I wanted it to be a broad overview, right? So I'm trying as much as I can to make sure that we cover a couple of things which we're going to expound on later in the course. We're going to talk about it in detail, but in this video, I just wanted to have a broad overview as a matter of introduction so you know what some of these things are going to be about. And this schematic overview is very important for us to accomplish that. So that's why I'm just trying to increase this size of the graph so that you can see. Let's go back to where we were. So it's going to be in full screen now. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm sure you can see now I'm using Canva. Canva is actually a very good resource. So I'm not endorsing it, but it's one that I use partly because I don't also know what other bigger tools or what other tools are better. So in clause one, so there are a couple of clauses, 7 clauses in the standard. So clauses, I don't know what the legal definition are, but clauses are things, core statements. Let's just call them core statements or core guides. So we have clause one, which is about the scope of the ISO 26000, the scope of the document. And we have clause two, which is about terms and definitions. And then we have clause three, which is about understanding social responsibility. We're going to come to that. If this video doesn't help you understand it a lot better, by the time we get to that video about it, in fact, on the next video, I'm going to talk about principles. So when I'm talking about principles, I'm going to give more details and explain many of those concepts. So by the time you watch that video about principles, I'm sure you're going to be about 40% into the rest of the course, if not 30%. Yeah. So we also have principles of social responsibility, which is in clause four, and we have clause five, which is the two fundamental practices of social responsibility. We have there recognizing social responsibility. How does an organization recognize social responsibility? That's what we're going to be talking about. And then we have stakeholder identification and engagement. In this video, in the video we're going to have over here, I'm going to explain stakeholder identification and engagement. So, if you've done project management previously, you know what stakeholder engagement is. If you've done business analysis, you know what stakeholder engagement is. If you're in the development space, really, there's absolutely no way you're not going to understand this. But I'm going to take you through another course just about that. Video is going to help you understand stakeholder identification within the context of social responsibility and the development sector. Who do we work with, and what are our obligations to them, and how do we relate with all of those sets of people? So we have social responsibility core subjects, which is clause six, is the subject matter of clause six. And so these core subjects are the elements. So being the elements, right, we're simply saying that we are going to review what the um, what the yeah, we're going to review what the elements are, right, in terms of core subjects. So core subjects simply talks about the the areas of interest that will help you establish social responsibility in the organization. So, social responsibility consultants, you have human rights, labor practices, the environment, operating standards, consumer issues, community involvement, and development. So, under integrating social responsibility throughout an organization, which is a very interesting part of this course, is beyond this knowledge that you gain from listening to or watching me explain all of these concepts. How do you go about establishing that in your organization? If you are an HR professional or you are a people management professional, how do you implement social responsibility in the organization so that internally the organization benefits and contributes to its own existence, and then externally the organization is a meaningful partner for the other organizations in society and for society itself? That is the efforts or the activities and processes and policies of the organization does not impact negatively on the rest of society. That's what we're going to talk about there. How do we take this policy document and then apply it? We're going to be talking about application under clause 7. That's what clause 7 is about. So you have voluntary initiatives for social responsibility, you have the relationships, you have reviewing, and improving an organization's actions and practices related to social responsibility. You have communication and social responsibility, and you also have practices for integrating social responsibility throughout the organization. That's really what Clause 7 is about. Then we then take a look at bibliography, and we'll take a look at Annex. We may not get to the point of Annex, but we'll just cite some of these things throughout the rest of the course. In fact, one of the videos I'm going to post is going to be about terms and definitions. And under terms and definitions, occasionally I'm going to make points to the bibliography. So you might have a little bit of relationship here. So this is the schematic overview, right? That's what it says here. The following graphic provides an overview of ISO 26000 outlining the relationship between the various clauses of the standard. And you can see on this part, it simply says social development. Sustainable development. So this is simply the aim of social responsibility, which is to maximize an organization's contribution to sustainable development. So as I said at the beginning, we have social responsibility, we have CSR, and we have social accountability. I've established social accountability, but then there's also sustainability. If you're a sustainability professional, social responsibility is one of those certifications that you want to have from organizations like PCB and others, right? But how do you distinguish between all of these terminologies, right? You have social responsibility, you have CSR, you have sustainability. This table is to help you achieve that. So one of the points I'm using to make this distinction is in terms of meaning. CSR simply says businesses should operate responsibly. Social responsibility, the concept and its meaning, simply says individuals and organizations must act in ways that benefit society, whereas sustainability is the goal of social responsibility more broadly, but also the goal of CSR. So sustainability simply means social and environmental, economic and governmental functioning for generations. So that's what it really talks about. So sustainability has different definitions, but we're simply talking about how we can keep society functioning in a proper, healthy way for the future generations. That's at the core of sustainability in terms of meaning. In terms of focus, the focus of CSR, as I established, is about businesses and their contributions to society. So let's just, since I've already talked about CSR, let's just look at social responsibility and sustainability. So the scope, in terms of scope, social responsibility applies to individuals, organizations, and society. In terms of sustainability, sustainability rather. Sorry, I'm trying to be faster because I think I've used a substantial amount of time to explain it, but I'm sure you get it. So sustainability applies to individuals, organizations, and society. So there's an overlap. They really are the same in terms of scope. In terms of focus, sustainability can be ESG. In fact, some people say when you use ESG as environmental, social, and governance, you remove the economic part. And I said earlier that the removal deliberate or indeliberate, or when you remove economic from the equation, it means that you are not paying attention to how much or the responsibility that an organization has to be profitable for its shareholders. And that's a concern for many people who are, in fact, not truly out to support climate friendly policies because of that argument that when businesses claim to be more ESG friendly, they do not care about their shareholders as they should, in which case they have a responsibility to serve their shareholders. So that's about focus and scope in terms of approach. So there are various approaches, but social responsibility concerns itself with actions to address social and environmental issues more broadly, while sustainability focuses on balancing environmental, social, economic needs to ensure long-term uh, sustainability or long-term endurance of society or existence of society. In terms of relationship, you have components of both CSR. Social responsibility is a component in terms of the concept of both CSR and sustainability, while sustainability goes beyond social responsibility, CSR, to include environmental sustainability. So social responsibility and sustainability actually overlap in a lot of areas. But when you take a look at this table, you're going to see that at some point there's a little bit of a difference, just about a tiny difference, but it's not so significant. As I said so far in this video, you have social responsibility leading into sustainability in terms of sustainable development. That's why it says in the document, the ISO standards, the ISO 26000 standard, that the goal of social responsibility is to promote sustainable development. And that's what sustainability as a movement is about, to sustain society. So that's that about the um, overview or the introduction to the concept. So this is me. If this is your first time watching my video, thanks for watching. My name is Justice Ellis Ayo. I'm a PCB certified ISO 26000 implementer. I'm not the lead implementer, but I am an implementer, and I'm an educator and a growth coach. So in terms of growth coaching, I help people figure out their plans for personal development, and I guide them through that. I do not like to say life coach. That's why I prefer to say growth coach, because life coach is quite overflogged. But I do have mentors in the field who are life coaches, such as Rick Lithin. He's a great guy. He's one of my mentors, and he's a life coach. But I prefer to just stick with growth coach because I'm helping young professionals and mid-level professionals go through the areas of growth and understand the areas of growth in their life and when they should think about growth. You think about growth in all aspects of your life, but there are phases of growth that I always like to help people understand and go through. Right now, you're in a phase of growth, and if you do not understand what that phase is and what you should do and how you should relate to the rest of life in that phase, you might mix a lot of things up and do things that you should be doing at the next phase in this phase, and that could create a dissonance in your growth. So I help people try to reduce the steepnesses of their growth journey, so that we can have a more enduring or endurable experience when you talk about your professional and personal development, because there's a lot of meaning that we sometimes miss, and that's what I try to do as a growth coach. I'm an educator, so this the YouTube series that I have here is one of those things that I try to do to educate the public about certain concepts that I'm passionate about. And so thanks for watching this video. If this is the first time watching my video, this is about my fourth or fifth video on YouTube. So bear with me. I haven't figured out everything yet, and that's why my communication isn't great yet. But I promise that by the time I get to like the 50th or the 100th video, it's going to improve significantly. I've taken lessons from the likes of Ali Abdallah. I know how they've grown in their journey, right, through repetition and doing a lot more of this recording and speaking to camera. It's been very helpful. Now I'm looking at the camera a lot more. But when I did my first feature, I didn't look at the camera as much as I'm looking at it now. So I think it's working. So thanks for watching, and I hope that you're going to watch other videos in the playlist. And I hope that this video and other videos in the playlist, in fact, the entire course is going to help you understand social responsibility so that you can make greater contributions in your work as a development professional. I'm a development professional. My specifics is MEL, Monitoring, Evaluation, Research, and Learning. And this course, when I took this certification, expanded what I knew and expanded the way I look at things in my work. And I think it's going to help you improve your own knowledge and your competency on your job. It doesn't matter what kind of job you do, but so long as you work in the development space or just about any sector at all, this is going to be very vital for you professionally. Thanks for watching. Shalom.